all of your mail, and all of your mail that comes to all capital letters of your name, put that aside and start realizing maybe I should start acting as a chief executive officer here, take that role and look into what's happening with my company, that all capital letters. And part of that is, again, the banks. If you went and started asking the banks to prove that they still own the debt, that is a really good start. And how we've been doing that is through our videos with UnitedWeStandPeople.com, where we take our clients and we go right through the whole process with you, talking to real bankers that you get to listen to us talk to. And it really brings it to the next, to apply it, to have a practical application for it. And it shows you.
What does that do for people? Okay, so I find out the bank doesn't own my debt anymore. Do I have to go to the next person, or what can that do for somebody? And what kind of debts does this relate to? Because there's a car debt, and there's a house debt, there's a visa debt, and there's a hydro debt.
All of it. I mean, debts are bought and sold, and one major entity that buys debts is the world market. So the world market now purchases a debt, and it's called securitization. There's a word for it. It's called securitizing it. So when they securitize it, what happens is they take the contract, your contract, and cut it up into like 20 pieces and sell it to 20 different entities. And these things are called tranche funds. But once you get into that, the main thing is that when you're dealing with the bank, who is actually on your title of your house, let's say, as an encumbrance holder, as a mortgage holder, but that information is not true, because if they sold it, they're no longer the owner of the debt. So there's this thing called the Bills of Exchange Act, and the Bills of Exchange Act is very, very prominent in our world. So for example, if we went and bought a toaster at Walmart and we walked out and one of the employees said, "Hey, stop, I think you stole that toaster." Due to the Bills of Exchange Act, we can just take the bill and show them, "No, this is mine, and see you later, you're harassing me." So the Bills of Exchange Act applies in this situation because they do need to prove that they are the owner of the asset, which is the debt, and they have to prove that to us in order to collect. They are legally obligated to prove they own the debt. And just to throw this into you, is that what is proof of ownership of the debt? And it's simply a sworn affidavit by a chartered accountant stating they looked into the ledgers and the debt was not sold. That's all it is. So they all have accountants working for them, definitely, all of these banks. And it's a very reasonable request. Not to mention the Canadian Rules of Court states very clearly, a verifiable proof is a sworn affidavit by a chartered accountant stating you looked into the ledgers and the debts have not been sold. So these banks are not willing to do it because they're, the accountants that work with them, they have a third party who governs them, that they can lose their license if they start signing off on things without doing their due diligence and being honest about it, right? So the banks are having a really hard time because they do not own the debt any longer. I'll give you a good example. Let's say you go to a bank and you sign off on a $20,000 loan. Now that bank, without telling you, is going to go and take that loan and sell it to the world market. So they've now got cash in their hands. Now let's say you win the lottery 3 months later and run into the bank and go, "Here's the 20 grand. And the bank just pulls their hand out and goes, "Yeah, okay, here, give that to me," and you leave. That means they just got paid twice. Now you see, what's the problem is that the Canadian coming in, the borrower, does not know how to do the transaction correctly. And the way to do the transaction correctly is before you hand them the money, you just ask them, "Are you still the owner of the debt? Can I see verifiable proof you are? And once you show me that, I'm going to hand you over the money." And so that's the problem, is that if the average entity does not know this is happening, therefore the banks are double dipping. They're actually getting paid twice in these situations. It's happening a lot. Now that's just an example of how that's happening and what's happening there. But it goes much further. It goes much further than that.